Ladies and gentlemen, I am here with the one, the only Drift. Welcome on, dude.
Hey guys.
So, before I poison you with all my preconceptions about you, about your content, about what you do, how do you describe yourself and what you do?
Um, I describe myself as a content creator for StarCraft 2,
hmm
and it had my content is still evolving. It kind of started with educational content, but now I'm trying to do both like entertainment and educational content.
Nice. Very cool, man. And just, kind of setting kind of people's expectations and thoughts around you, right? Let's tell people, your race, your rank, how long you've been playing, all these kinds of things.
Okay. I'm a Terran main. I am currently Masters 3. Um, and I've been playing since right when the game went free to play. I think that was the end of 2017.
hmm
So just however long that's been.
Yeah.
Um, and I just instantly fell in love with the game. I'd never played it before. My
Wow. Huh.
brother-in-law introduced it to me, and originally I got into StarCraft because I'm a music major, and in
hmm
high school, music was my hobby, and I did it a lot after school. I hardly ever played
Ah.
video games.
Yeah.
Then I got into college and became a music major, and then it could no longer be my hobby without it being like stressful in some
Yeah.
sort of way. So I started looking for other things, and I came across StarCraft, and I really liked the improvement focus of the game, and
Mhm.
that really caught my attention, and I kind of have been hooked ever since.
Yeah, awesome, dude. So are you still in school or have you, like, long since graduated? Where are you at with that?
I'm just about to finish up my bachelor's degree and graduate in May.
Oh, man, that's exciting times in the life of Drift. I love it, dude.
Yeah.
And then, okay, more I'm trying to, like, just hammer through the basics because I got a little preview as we were kinda green rooming and chatting this morning, like, there's a lot of topics that we wanna really deep dive, so I'm like, "Okay, what's all the stuff that I gotta do that's just, like, work so people understand who you are and what you're about," right? So I'm gonna rapid fire you a little bit because I wanna get through it. Are you working right now or are you just kind of like full-time student? What's kind of the situation there?
I'm doing student teaching, so
Okay.
working for free right now.
Oh man, good times. That's the
Yeah.
best of all worlds right there, right? Yeah. Cool, dude. So as you're in this search of like, I need something that's not music. Music can't be my hobby, right? And I need some kind of a game like what was it that like kind of you mentioned the improvement focus was what made you say okay yes I'm gonna do starcraft, right? But how did it first kind of pop onto your radar? Like what made it sort of come up for you?
Well, I came back for Christmas from college,
hmm
and my brother-in-law, who my sister had recently married, was like, "Hey, have you ever played StarCraft? It's free to play now." And I was like, "No, I haven't." And we downloaded it on my PC. Um, it didn't. I had a laptop, and I didn't know this until I was in Diamond League, like almost a year and a half later. But I was only getting like 30 frames per second
oh
on
wow.
the thing. So,
Yeah.
anyways, I just fell in love with Terran, and it's kind of silly. It reminded me of like the clones from Star Wars, and I just
hmm
thought the dropship styles were really cool. And
yeah,
so that I don't know, it just kind of brought out the little boy in me, I guess.
totally. Yep. Yeah, I very much resonate with that sort of like the little kid energy thing, right? Like I have a lot of that. And I feel like it's nice to like see that for what it is and be like, yeah, and I'm going to just enjoy that. Like can I just have that cuz we don't get a lot of it as adults, right? To
Right.
have that little thing of like, yeah, I do want to like have one of every unit. That's fun, you know?
hmm
Very cool. So how did you settle on Drift as your handle?
I um that's a funny story. I would notice when I started playing that the pros had these like really cool just
Mm.
one word names
Yeah.
like zest, innovation, um stats. I was like, man, I got to think of something that's kind of short and just doesn't necessarily mean anything. It's just a nice sounding word.
Mhm.
I kind of settled on drift. So
Yeah. Oh, dude, that's smart. Like my story is terrible by comparison. I really like how you arrived at that. That's awesome. Okay, what about streaming? What made you decide like I'm going to take this game that I am playing cuz I need a hobby. I need a fun thing that's not tied up in work and learning and whatever, although kind of tied up in learning, I suppose. And I'm going to stream it. Like what made you go there?
um I was lying in bed one night and I was like, you know, I could be playing StarCraft and meeting new people and
Mm.
possibly making money while doing it.
Mhm.
And I'm already playing StarCraft anyways, so why don't I just stream it? And
Yeah.
back then, I had no concept of like content or other than just I'm gonna play a video game in front of people,
Hmm.
and that's how I got started. And I did that for a year, and I've been streaming for about 2 years now.
Okay. Yeah. So it sounds like you did StarCraft, kind of starting in this sort of free to play era, played for a while, and then went, you know what? I could just turn on a stream and I'm kind of doing two things now.
Yeah,
Nice. Very cool, dude.
just felt more productive to me.
Yeah. I totally get that. It's like there's an artifact at the end that you made, right?
Hmm.
And maybe it's just an artifact of like, well, nothing that wild happened. I kind of it was a ladder stream and whatever, but maybe there's a really hype clippable moment or a game where you beat that build that you've been stuck against and you lose every match and you're like, yeah, I'm gonna make that a highlight, I'm gonna push it to YouTube and I'm gonna have it forever to keep as a trophy, right? Like,
Hmm.
yep. Awesome, man. I totally
And
get it.
I really came to enjoy like messing around with broadcasting software,
Mm.
and just like to me, it was like a business, and it was fun to like kind of say like this is my product and I'm gonna be my own boss and create my stream how I want it to look.
Yeah.
And the I didn't have a great setup when I first started. I had like a headset with a really crappy mic. I
Hmm.
didn't have a camera. I didn't have any overlays. And it just kind of seemed like one thing at a time. Like eventually I got a
Yep.
better mic. Eventually I got a really crappy webcam. And then someone made me overlays and it's just kind of evolved.
Hmm.
Now I
Very
use
cool.
OBS instead of Streamlabs, and OBS is a lot of fun.
Yeah, awesome, dude. I think you're taking like a really cool approach. It's very much like kind of how I wanted to do it as well. So I guess I'm biased. But yeah, the idea that like it can be a journey and you can always kind of be tinkering and improving it. I think a lot of us, who are sort of like I don't know what word to put on it other than like community streamers, right? We're like kind of just
Mhm.
people who are like just streaming our ladder and stuff and like trying to see where it goes. Like I think that's the sort of strategy that a lot of people take and it makes it like more fun and not work so much.
Yeah.
Very cool, dude. So, yeah, I mean, I'm almost like there's so many things I want to talk to you about, right? And I'm almost having trouble figuring out where to go first. So, if there's topics that are burning in your head, you could totally help me sort of steer this because I mean, we kind of both know a lot of the stuff we want to talk about, right?
Mhm.
So I guess maybe it makes sense to start with kind of your approach to content around learning and improvement and stuff, because that's sort of how your content originated. And we can kind of go on the journey from there of, what you did next and what you're thinking and maybe the different reasons behind all those things.
Right. So the reason I've started making builder guides, which was my first like what I consider real content, not
Hmm.
just me, playing in front of people and
Yeah.
not having any other plan than that.
Hmm.
So what that came from was a few years ago, I was looking for builders myself on YouTube, and I came across this one guy called Ryu Goes Rar, and his Terran content is amazing. He no longer plays the game anymore,
Hmm.
and he kind of retired. But I got really close to Ryugo's Rar. He would coach me a whole bunch. I really learned a lot about builders from him, especially.
Hmm.
And I learned like how builders are like I have this formula, especially for Terran. Like there's usually things that come next, and you can
Mm.
anticipate it no matter what build you're doing.
Yeah.
They just stack up in a certain way. Um, but when he stopped doing builder guides, he kind of fell out of love with the game.
Mm.
I kind of realized like there was no one there besides like maybe Euthermal making builder guides for Terran.
Hmm.
So I thought I would try it, and I started with the intent of learning more about builders myself,
Hmm. Yeah.
and then like as you teach, you learn kind of
Hmm.
concept.
Hmm.
And that has definitely happened for me. I understand builders way better than when I first started making YouTube videos
Yeah.
because it's just been a lot of grinding. Like for me to make a YouTube video, it takes a lot of time. Actually, I usually don't get the build right on my first try.
Mm.
There's like some sort of small error that'll pop up or something's delayed, and I want it to be. They're never perfect, but I try to make them as crisp as possible. So
Hmm.
it's a lot of time for me just spent in an empty custom game, just
Yeah.
grinding the build till I get it right,
Hmm.
and then I um, started posting them to YouTube, and very slowly I started getting some attention with them, and when I started doing my student teaching, I moved back home with my parents,
Hmm.
and I'm near my brother-in-law again. And I told my brother-in-law, the guy who introduced me to StarCraft in the first
Yeah.
place, like, "Hey, I'm making some builder guides." He's like, "No way. I do video editing. Do you want me to edit your videos for you?"
Ah,
And I
cool.
was like, "Oh, this is really cool." And so him and I have paired together, and I've made much more clean content because of his help.
Yeah.
And some of the like, I just checked this morning, my best video that I published like maybe 2 months ago has like 800 views, and so I feel
Yeah.
really good about that for
Hmm.
StarCraft content. Because when I look at some other StarCraft content creators, even much bigger name than me, they're not having as much like success on YouTube,
Hmm.
and so I've been really excited by that, and
Yeah.
just it feels good to see that kind of growth.
Yeah, dude, that's amazing. I mean, I'm thinking of like, of course I know what my numbers are, right? And they're not that. So, yeah, that's way cool. And I especially like that it sort of came full circle with your brother-in-law, right? Where it's like
Hmm.
kind of was like, hey, look at this game, and then you come back and now you're this, dynamic duo type thing. Is he somebody who I would know who's like in the scene, or is he just kind of like one of these like nameless nerds who you don't really they're out there but you don't know about them?
You probably don't know about him. He hangs out in my chat sometimes.
Hmm.
If you know the name Matchstick, that's him.
I don't
But if
I
you
don't
haven't hanged out in my chat, um, very often, then you probably won't recognize him. So
Sure, makes sense. Yeah. Very cool, dude. I really like that story. And it's awesome that you're getting, kind of the return on the effort too. I feel like for a lot of us, like I kind of told that story earlier about like, and you could sort of see my bias there, right? Of like, oh yeah, if I have this cool game, I'll clip it, send it to YouTube for like the archive, right? It's just like
right.
throw it on the pile, right?
Hmm.
And when you take that approach of like, oh, it's this afterthought. I mean, maybe I need to be thinking about it more because the interview series, we were, kind of talking about this before we went live. It's mostly consumed on YouTube. It's not as much
Right.
consumed live. And so maybe, I'm already learning from you, which is kind of what I hope to get out of all these interviews, right? Like what cool ideas can I steal from this smart person, right? Um yeah, maybe that's kind of like the lesson for me already. Is that YouTube can't be an afterthought for me because you're putting in the work and you're seeing the return, right? When I spoke with Loco, I guess probably last month at this point, it was very clear that he really thinks about this stuff. He really, is YouTube is not a second class citizen in his mind, right? It is very
Right.
much a piece of his business. And you can see the results of all of his hard work over the years and of the quality of the content. So it's nice to hear, right? That like, as guys like me and you who are like, I don't know, I kind of fell into this and I thought I'd turn on a stream and see what happened, right? Like
Right.
that actually like there is a path, right? That you can put forth that effort and see the return even if you're not loco doing it full time and whatever. That's actually really really cool.
Right.
Um and this is the stuff that I really am hyped to talk to you about today because like I think the scene a lot of the time focuses on the people who already are like a huge household name in StarCraft, right? And there's this disconnect where it's like if I have never streamed or if I streamed once to 0 viewers and got scared and said I'm never doing it again, right? Like what's the in between, right? And I think it's really interesting to hear, from someone who's on that journey, right? Who's like I am making my content better every day and I'm seeing results and just kind of like exploring that. So, okay, so we talked about kind of doing educational content. And then you said you kind of wanted to move away from that or at least sort of diversify a little bit more towards entertainment. So, what was that kind of decision like?
It's just kind of been gradual. Like I try not to think about the numbers, like in terms of people watching me on
Yeah.
Twitch, but I do pay attention to just some trends. And I noticed that if I'm just playing ladder and I'm just trying to show like, hey, here's how I do my builders, but I'm doing it on Twitch, I feel like those don't get as much attention.
Hmm.
But I feel like when I produce something quality, um, or for the right platform, like we talked a little bit about this earlier, and we'll get more into it. But YouTube and Twitch have kind of different roles for what kind of content people want to watch on them.
Yeah.
But regardless, when I feel like I make the right content for the right platform,
Hmm.
I feel like it tends to snowball. I have like two experiences with this. The first one was with my YouTube channel.
Hmm.
Um, I started making my builder guides and started working with my brother-in-law to edit them and make them more professional. And um, things started snowballing. Like someone had mentioned, I think in Euthermal's Discord, like, hey, Drift has a like some of these StarCraft streamers, or sorry, content creators have like really nice intros, and then like immediately after his videos start getting intros. That was just kind of a funny thing.
Yeah.
So like attention in that kind of way,
Uh-huh.
like
Yeah.
through the details. And then another thing that happened is I noticed a particular video of mine was just getting a lot of views compared to my
Mm.
previous videos,
Uh-huh.
and I was trying to figure out why. I couldn't
Yeah.
figure out why. So I ran one day. I was looking through spawning tools, and I see Drift's TVP Speed Banshee build,
Mm-hmm.
and I was like, someone put it on spawning tools, and
Mm-hmm.
that's where all my views started coming from all of a
Yep.
sudden. So I feel like when you create the right content for the right platform, it'll snowball, it'll get shared. And then here's the other experience I had with this, but on Twitch. So
Mm.
I feel like people, when they go to YouTube because they want that educational content. Um, if they go to Twitch, they sometimes do want that educational content, and that's fine to still do it. But a lot of them are just looking to be entertained and relax,
Mm.
and
Yeah.
either see some really high level gameplay or just see something funny like
Mm-hmm.
Pig does ICFAR stuff.
Yeah.
Like people love that. And so this week I was focusing on that a little bit, and I'm still coming up with ideas for what I want to do to improve that area. But I decided for entertaining content, I wanted to do team games with 3 people that I'm close with in my Discord,
Mm-hmm.
and we were gonna go mass Thor Hellbat, all of us. It just like as a meme, like
Yeah.
it's like just kind of like talking about the vibes bronze CGM, like because a lot of Terrans think that that's kind of a bad thing, but we just decided to be really funny to have mass Thor everywhere.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So we did it, and we had this one moment where all of us are just with this insane huge Thor army. We walk up to this Protoss player who has like a billion Void Rays, and the Void Rays just kind of melt. And I was laughing. I thought this was so
Yeah.
funny. Someone in my
Totally.
chat clipped that and then posted it to Reddit. And like while I was streaming, I didn't have like a particular large amount of views.
Mm-hmm.
But then when it got put on Reddit overnight, I think it gained like some 700 views.
Wow.
And I thought that was cool, but I didn't think too much of it.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but yesterday, where I feel like I really learned the lesson about the importance of just focusing on content and not anything else, was
Mm-hmm.
um, I was streaming, and all of a sudden I get a raid from Pig.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the first time I've ever had a raid from anyone big in the StarCraft community.
Yeah.
And it was really fun. I enjoyed, having 380 viewers at one point. That was really fun.
Mm-hmm.
And I got so many follows from it. I was just really grateful for that experience. But afterwards, I was wondering, like, why did he raid me?
Mm-hmm.
And I decided to go back and watch his VOD. And lo and behold, as he's doing this, my clip appears as one of the top StarCraft clips, just
Ah.
kind of like generated from the, like however Twitch does that.
Yep.
So he clicks on it and watches it, and he just thinks it's funny, and he's like, "Go Drift!" And because of that clip, he decided to raid me.
Mm-hmm.
And so I feel like sometimes as a streamer, it's really easy to focus on like, oh, how many viewers am I getting or
Mm-hmm.
subs or whatever. But don't focus on that. Focus on the content first and creating quality content, and then the content can snowball to other things for you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Oh man. I have so many things that I want to say about this. Mostly literally just agreeing and being like, "Yes, all of your ideas are perfect." Um so I love your emphasis on just making good stuff, right? Because there's that acknowledgement that this is kind of out of your control, right?
Yeah.
You maybe could go back and clip yourself based on what you thought was really funny. And that kind of works. Like if you're pretty in tune with like the rest of the scene and how they think and feel and that kind of thing, like you could do okay there. It's never quite the same though as somebody else being like, "Yes, this minute specifically was the funny part," right?
Right.
Because they have like a different perspective than you, and just things like that. You then also have no control over whether Reddit likes it, right? They might just decide that you're a big bully and you should never win a game with a Thor, right? That's like a very Reddit kind of a thing to have happen. um but it could go the way that it did. Cool. You also have no control over Pig clicking on it. You have no control over Pig having the goodness in his heart to be like, yes, let me bestow upon this, humble community creator, right? Like, and I know that feeling exactly because it's happened to me too. And I'm like, whoa, the view count and the chat is moving way quick, and I'm not used to all this. And thank you for the
Mm-hmm.
follow, 420 Blaze at Man 69. Like, I really appreciate you. Yeah. So it's a very like this, then this, then this, then this. You had no control over any of it, but you did have control over the content being good, right?
Yeah.
And it's like the only way to keep yourself sane and focused and centered is to just be like, this is the only thing I can control. This is the only thing that matters. And I can do it if I am creative enough, right? Like, because you did that, right? You decided this would be compelling content. I'm gonna get some of my buddies from the Discord. Now I'm doing like community engagement stuff too, which is kind of
Mhm.
cool. And yeah, you get this amazing moment. Like, yeah, I just love that story, man. That's way cool. And I love that it paid off too, right? Because like you deserve it. You're putting in the work for sure. Dude,
Ye
awesome.
Yeah, I didn't expect, and like all these things that have happened this week from that one moment where I decided to do some different content than I normally would do, which is just spamming ladder games.
Mm-hmm.
It I didn't expect it to pay off, but it did in a really nice way.
Yeah. So kind of this other thread that you mentioned, which I think is really interesting and cool, is the idea of the right kind of content for the right platform, right? And I wonder, okay, before we dive, I'm gonna forget this question, so I just have to front load it. How do you think about, so I think we both agree that there's different content for different platforms. How do you think about the balancing act of like, if you know that you're gonna make something that's YouTube focused, will you just not even stream it because you don't want to have like sort of content that's not for Twitch on Twitch? And vice versa, or will you do kind of both at once? And like, so like I'm doing right now, right? Like this is live. It's a little bit scuffed that it's live because I'm not paying attention to chat. Hi, Ashley Fatum, I see you. Um, so like that, right? We've got viewers, we've got people chatting, and I'm not acknowledging them because this is supposed to be conversational, right?
Right.
And that kind of sucks, right? That's not how I normally do my content. And I think we both share this sensibility that you really want to like be grateful and do a good job as a content creator, right? So what do you think about that?
Uh, I have like I noticed that a lot of other big content creators primarily do that. They'll stream
Mm,
and then they have something that they really like, whether it's a builder or just
yep.
a unique way of playing StarCraft, and they post it to YouTube. I would do that for the entertaining content, but I haven't done that for my educational content
Hmm.
because I just don't feel like they mix well together. Just for me, like my builder guides are very clean, with like higher resolution than what I
Mm,
stream with,
yep.
and I just want the builder guides to just be focused on that and not be like sidetracked with like alerts and random
Hmm.
things happening
Yeah. That
or
totally makes sense.
inappropriate chat comments appearing on the YouTube video or something like
Right.
that. So
Yep. Totally get that. Yeah. So it sounds like you've definitely kind of done some prep work and some kind of tech around this because for folks who don't know who aren't streamers, right? What he just said is not easy, right? Like it's not straightforward to just be like, oh yeah, I do the videos in a higher resolution. Like it might even be like a different frame rate as well, right? Like are you doing 1080 60 for YouTube or
I th- I think it's just 1080p.
okay, got it. So yeah, so I mean, you clearly have kind of schooled up there. Do you just find that totally seamless at this point? Like, are you used to tinkering around in OBS and being like, okay, I'll click the streaming profile or I'll click the video profile kind of thing?
I kind of use Streamlabs now for
Uh huh.
just recording videos, and then
Yep.
OBS for Twitch.
Oh, nice. Okay, so you actually split it by sort of variant of OBS, and then that way you kind of have the complete separation. I can never mess up. I literally
Yeah.
launch a different program. Okay. Yeah, that's
hmm
clever actually. I haven't heard of a lot of people doing that. That's smart.
It was
Um
just me being lazy and not wanting to create like different scenes, but
yeah, well, I
just
mean in a way it's safer, right? Like you can't
yeah.
make a mistake. Like I know for sure, like I understand the features that are available for this and I don't use them because I am too afraid. I'm too forgetful. I'm too much of a mess just as a human being. I just walk through life as a ball of chaos. And I would launch my stream with the wrong thing and people would be like, "Dude, I'm on mobile and I'm getting like one frame every 3 minutes. Like can you please
Right.
just turn your stream off and like start over?" Um cool. Okay, now I want to get into sort of this concept of, the right thing for the right platform, right? So you talked about people want to chill on Twitch, people want to maybe interact more, right? Obviously you're not really getting that on YouTube. I agree so much with everything that you've said to me about this so far. And the other thing that I wanted to add was, yeah, that interaction piece. And I wanted to kind of pick your brain there in terms of like, how much of it do you think is the chill factor, the like, I just want to, like, I don't want to get out my build order notepad, as Artosis calls it, right? When I'm watching Twitch,
Right.
I don't want to be like taking notes and studying and feeling like I'm working. And
Hmm.
then how much of it do you think is like, I want the man on the television to acknowledge my presence kind of thing?
I think that's why people go to small streamers in particular,
Mm,
because they like the one-on-one conversation you can have
yeah.
where like maybe no one else is chatting but you as that one viewer, and you're
Mm-hmm.
just having this like really long conversation about
Mm-hmm.
something. That's what I mostly watch other small streamers. I hardly ever watch like the big content creators because I feel like I'll never be heard, and
Mm.
I don't enjoy that
Yeah.
as much.
Oh, this is interesting. I want to deep dive this a little bit more because I very much have that too. Like, I'll go to the large streams because, now I've kind of met some of those people doing interview content and stuff, and so there's sort of more of that personal connection. Even if my chat message is still getting lost in the hundreds of them scrolling by, kind of thing. It's like I still feel an attachment to that person. I want to check in on them, see how they're doing, whatever. But I have a little bit, so flipping to the streamer side of it, right? This is actually a really nice benefit of being smaller, right? Like, I turn on my stream, it's maybe 10 people, 20 people, for a ladder session on like an average day. And I kind of like that. It's kind of nice where I know every name that's in there. I can like literally I can remember facts about them, right? Like this
Right.
person does that for a living. This person plays that race, they're this league, like etc. And I really enjoy
Hmm.
that level of sort of connection. And I'm curious, especially since you just had this experience of Pig just drops 1 billion viewers on you, and now all of a sudden it's different, right? There's,
Hmm.
you want to do a good job, you want to be entertaining for these people, you want to thank them for the follow, and so on and so forth. But you don't have that like I know everybody in chat thing. And I feel very conflicted about this because it's like, okay, if I want to grow, it's going to be more like that and less like what I'm used to.
Right.
But I kind of like what I'm used to. So do you feel conflicted in that way, or have you kind of accepted it better than me?
Maybe I have accepted a little bit better.
Okay.
I
Teach
watch
me.
Up a Tree Zelda though,
Yeah.
and when I watch him, he has these viewers who've been there since the beginning, and they're all his main subscribers, and there's like 20 or 30 of them
Mm-hmm.
that are always popping in. So he always has this base viewership that he knows that he can just have like an entire conversation with. And then there's always some new people coming and saying hi.
Ah,
And
yeah.
um, so I feel like hopefully, um, if I did ever grow to a large number of viewers, that I would have that base viewership first that I could always talk with and be
Mm-hmm.
comfortable with, and then still create conversations with new people.
Oh, that's a wonderful way to think about it, actually. See, and again, this is why I do these interviews. This is not for you, and I'm sorry, guy or gal on YouTube who's listening to this at work later this week. I'm sorry, it's not for you. It's so that I can steal ideas from these smart people. Because Drift, you gave me a gift, right? Like I didn't have that in my head. And you say it, and it's like, well, duh, right? That's like the most obvious thing on the planet once you hear it. But it's really hard to make that idea from first, principles. Like, yeah, obviously, Sal has already solved this problem for us, and we can just learn from him. I love that too. What do you think about that as guys like us who have come into the scene later in the game, right? Where it's like the path is there, right? If I want an example of how to have good chat interaction, if I want an example of how to have nice tech around my stream, well, look no further than Mr. Epatry Zelda, and I can just literally ask him and he'll answer me because he just likes this stuff so much. Like, how have
Mhm.
you kind of approached that and kind of like stealing tricks and borrowing from people who already have it figured out?
It's something I wish I would have paid attention to more with bigger
Mm.
streamers,
Hmm.
because this goes back to the idea of how I'm just focused on content now
Yeah.
with streaming. I wish I would have sat there and just watched a Pig stream and been like, what is Pig doing? Like, yes, he is doing some ladder.
Hmm.
People enjoy seeing some try hard, but then he also goes and does some coaching, and then he does
Yep.
IC and then he casts Florencio replays, or then he's casting pro replays.
Yeah.
That's so he has like, even though he may not need it, he could probably just ladder and get just as many viewers. I've kind of realized after like a year and a half of streaming to less people than I would have liked, that maybe it's because my content is non-existent. I need to
Mm-hmm.
add some content, and I wish I would have done that sooner. And I feel like for us smaller streamers, maybe sometimes we just take a longer time to learn those things that are maybe more obvious to the big streamers already.
Yeah. I mean, I guess it's a different mindset, right? As we kind of, blunder into it when it's like, I have a vague idea of like what I want to do. And, this is exciting to me. I have a lot of that little kid energy around this, but I'm not thinking about it like it's a business, right? As somebody like
Right.
Pig, who's been making his living that way. And like even somebody like you, who, kind of is approaching it as like, this is my product and I want to, conduct myself to a high standard and different things. Like it's even easy for somebody like you to kind of miss that at first. So I think that really kind of is indicative of the difficulty level of even just like having that idea. And I think it also helps guys like Pig too from the standpoint of like longevity and their own
Yeah.
enjoyment of it, right? Like I could not do a stream that long and just be laddering. Like I mean,
Right.
I've done it before because I've gotten enough raids in a row where it's got it just I like today's the lottery day, right? We hit the lottery, and this is the
Hmm.
only time the next 3 years I'm gonna have a view count like this, so I better keep grinding. And like that's so dangerous too because it can get your mindset going in a bad direction too. You're playing bad because it's hour 6.5, and now you're losing, and like you had a win streak at hour 3 when nobody was there, and now you're paying for it live while you're tired and 300 people are watching you, right? Like there's it can go to some bad places. Have you had any of those experiences?
Well, like yesterday, I after the stream was kicking myself because here I am having these thoughts lately about quality content, and when I got rated from Pig, all I did was ladder, and I lost like 3 games. And
Yep.
a lot of people stuck around, and I tried to stay positive, but by the end of those 3 games, I knew like inside I was tilted, and so I was like, all right, let's just go ahead and raid someone. And I
Mm,
ended the stream a little bit earlier than I wanted to, with that many people being there.
mm-hmm.
So I wish I'd been like, all right, I'm gonna hop into team games. Anyone want to join me? We're gonna do mass store
Mm. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
or some of the other ideas that I have right now,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
and just mix it up.
Yeah. Okay,
And
so
so that idea of like us being small, and like it really is the idea of like we have to just kind of learn from our failures first, and then maybe kind of
yeah.
get it
Oh
over time.
man. Okay, were you peeking at my Discord? Because I was just talking about this with someone.
I did not know.
Oh, that's even better. Okay. So, as you know, like I do the book club thing.
Mhm.
And funny enough, actually this ties into Pig too. So, when Pig was on book club with us, we did the book Range. Um
Cool.
and that book kind of talks about the meandering path through life that almost all of us have, right? And unless you're one of these people who like your parents from age 3 were like, you are going to be a golf professional, and they like had you, like Tiger Woods in it, right? um the rest of us are kind of like, oh, I don't know, my parents bought me a Nintendo and I thought that was kind of cool, and then I studied computer science, and I remember playing StarCraft when I was 13 and I kind of fell into it. It's like this just sort of series of events that's kind of just happening, right?
Right.
And we all get kind of down on ourselves around that of like, oh, I did this and it was a waste, right? Like, I was recently talking to somebody and they're asking me, hey, do you want to cast this? I'm saying, I kind of want to back away from casting because like, while I enjoy it, while I think I'm okay at it, like, and could probably improve, but I'm like, I'm not terrible. Um, I don't think I'm adding anything to the conversation compared to any other community person who's like kind of all right. You know what I mean? And there are many of them that are fantastic. So it's like, what am I, I don't have a unique contribution there, right? Um, I totally lost my train of thought. Oh no.
Maybe how do we find our unique contribution? Is that where you were kind of
I
going?
mean, that's what I was driving at, but there was something else I was going to tie it to. Range, right? So you said these things that were a mistake, right? And I just recently was finally able to like I read that book months ago. We had that episode of Pig months ago, and like literally yesterday, I was like, oh, these are important lessons about my content, and I shouldn't be like, wow, that was a waste of time. That was the thing that taught me about, yeah, find your niche, find the way that you can kind of contribute in a way that's meaningful, that's more unique to you. Doing this for me feels more right than anything else I've ever done on Twitch in like 3 or 4 years I've been doing it or whatever. Like, I still like the ladder streams because I get the chat interaction,
Hmm.
but this, I'm like, okay, wait, I have an opportunity to just like literally farm brilliant ideas from you, right? I get an hour to an hour and a half to just be like, tell me every brilliant idea you've had as you've been doing this, right? I get to show the rest of the scene like, hey, do you see Drift? If you did you know about it? Because he's really cool and he has all these like interesting angles on his content. And like, why are you not watching him? Right. So like I really, really like being able to do both of those things and get hyped up and bouncy like this on street. Like, it's just fun for me. And I walk out of it really energized. Um, I am totally derailing us though, because you were talking about sort of these learning experiences, and I want to hear kind of more about that. Or was that kind of like that? Was that your whole thought there?
No, I think that they're connected to. You did mention something like, how do I not just be like every other streamer and have
Mm,
something of value?
yes.
Um, that was like this kind of happened to me earlier this year. Like, um, with making YouTube videos, I realized that they did affect my Twitch content, and they didn't just affect my Twitch content because it was StarCraft 2 content. It was unique to me and how I present them, and
Mm-hmm.
like no one else was kind of doing it the way I was doing. And I kind of realized, well, maybe I should try something like that with Twitch. And one of the first things I tried was free coaching.
Mm,
Um, and I thought, well, this could be something of value to me. No one else is offering free coaching. There's a ton of diamond and below players who would love to get some, but just don't have the money, or just they're not comfortable spending like a whole
sure.
bunch of money for a pro to coach them.
Yeah.
So I thought, well, this could be my unique angle, and it has been successful. The thing about it is, it's kind of reliant upon other people signing up for it,
Mm, yep.
and I was getting a lot of momentum with it at first, but it just slowed down a bit, and so this has made me realize, I need to diversify my content, but still keep it unique to me
Mm-hmm.
and have that unique value that no one else can offer.
Yeah, it's like you're building up your repertoire of things. Like Pig didn't come up with all 17 of those cool ideas that you mentioned in a day, right? It's
Right.
kind of, he's going along. Oh, I'm going to do Icy Far because like Day Nine's not doing Fun Day Monday anymore. And how can we have a
Right.
unique kind of angle on that? And okay, oh, Florencio, right? Like, there's this guy who's just a madman, and I can cast his replays and like kind of do it in sort of a funny way. It's like kind of unique to Pig, and like he's very good at coming up with terms like sewer mermaid, right? And it's
Right.
like my brain can't do that. Pig's brain can do that, and it's freaking hilarious.
Hmm.
And so yeah, I love like that almost sort of self-discovery aspect of it, where it's like in a way doing Twitch live streams or doing YouTube content forces you to introspect on like what are the things that make you different and unique compared to other people, and also like what are the things you appreciate about those other people where you identify it and you're like, I can't do that. My brain can't make sewer mermaid, right? Pig's brain can, and I love him for that, right? Have you had a lot of moments like that as you've kind of been going through this where you're like discovering about yourself?
Yeah, when I first started streaming, I thought it was about your ladder rank, and that would be how successful you were at streaming.
Yeah.
But the more that I've done this, I realize that that actually does not matter much at all.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, like the biggest ones, like maybe Hero Marine or Parting, they get the most viewers because they
Sure.
are pro players.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But I see players who are like um, gold, plat, and
Mm-hmm.
they've got like 80 viewers. They're
Yep.
diamond 2, they've got like 80 viewers.
Yep.
And I realized that I'm at a higher level than all of them, but that doesn't really matter because for
Mm-hmm.
whatever reason people are appreciating their content more. And
Yeah.
so it's been a self-discovery for me. Like your value as a streamer is not based upon your rank as a player.
Mm-hmm.
It's based upon what you can offer
Yeah.
with what
I've
you do
always thought
have.
of it. Sorry, go ahead.
Just with what you do have as an individual.
Totally. Yeah. I've always thought of it like being really, really, really super good at the game is like a path, right? It's not the path, it is a
Hmm.
path. And if you happen to be parting, by all means, make that one of your angles. And that's the interesting thing. That's not even his only angle, right?
Right.
Like parting is kind of this interesting combination of somebody who's hilarious, right? Somebody who
Hmm.
understands how to be an entertainer, somebody who has a little bit of like an attitude and an edge in a way that makes him kind of cool, right? Or maybe you don't like him, right?
Hmm.
Like, and even put, polarizing people in that way is kind of cool and interesting too. I think of all of the, just different memes. Like there's a really old gif of him from like 2012, 2013, where he does the like Jack in the Box middle finger thing while he's,
Right.
as a ceremony, like little things like that, right? It's it can even be more than just I'm good. But he's doing that same thing. He's like, what are my angles? Right. And people have talked to him on stream and said, hey, Parting, why are you playing on NA? And why are you beating up on people who are 900 MMR lower than you and just like stealing their points? And this is actually like, I think there's a clip of it. I might have even clipped it. I'm not sure. But it's not brought up enough that he actually did address this. He's like, look, guys, like the exact same thing that you're talking about, where it's like, I can't do 8 hours of like try hard
the game
ladder
ladder.
at my very best. But y'all want me to stream, and I'm trying to do this for a living. So what the hell do you think I'm gonna do for hours, 6, 7, and 8, right? Like I have
Right.
to hop on another account. And this is a known thing, right? Like Neuro plays on different accounts based on how much commentary he's gonna give.
Right.
Have you kind of gotten into anything like that where you'll sort of scale the like difficulty level or whatever of what you're doing based on like how much do I want to entertain versus how much am I just trying to like rank and try hard kind of thing?
It's something I'm learning about more and still trying to figure out what is the balance for me. I
Hmm.
created another account um, that is at a similar level to my main account. The only problem is it doesn't have skins, and I love my skins, so I
Ah,
have a
yep.
like less motivation for playing on those accounts. And then I get
Hmm.
on my main and do it while I'm streaming, and then I like
Yeah.
lose points, and so that doesn't feel good either.
Right. Yep.
So I'm still figuring that out.
Okay.
Um, and it's also hard because now I'm pretty much only playing when I stream. So it's like, well, what's the point
Hmm.
of like
Hmm.
using another account? So
Sure.
that's something I'm still figuring out and trying to figure out what would be best for me and make me feel the most f- feel the best about it.
Yeah. So this is really interesting. So you initially were doing some games off stream, and you've actually made the change to only doing games on stream then?
Yeah, so earlier I've done a lot of self-reflection earlier this week, and I posted a survey in my Discord of like just about my stream. What do you think about it? What can I do differently? And not a lot of people filled it out, but those that did almost all said more streams.
Okay.
And I was like, "Oh, well, you know what? I do pretty much play every day. I was streaming 3 times a week before. What if I just mix that up and say I'm only gonna play when I stream?"
Hmm.
And so that's the approach I'm taking right now,
Nice. Okay. How long have you been doing that?
just this week.
Okay. Great. So do you feel like your MMR has settled from that? Like I have to imagine the first day or two that you were doing this, there was a little bit of kind of you getting beat up, right?
I've dropped quite a bit, and
Yeah.
I'm still working on getting back up now.
Mm-hmm.
So
Mm-hmm.
that was with my main account. So maybe this is a sign that I do need to play on another account where I'm less affected by it and only play on my main when I do have the moment to play off stream. But
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah,
I'm not sure.
it's so hard to figure out. I don't feel like there's sort of a one size fits all answer. Like for
Yeah.
me, I did eventually make actually the first other account that I made was when Printf was teaching me canon stuff, and I'm like, okay, I'm not Diamond League at this. Like I know that for sure. Um and then I got into doing another one just when chat was like, hey, can you do a funny build? And I'm like, okay, I'm also not Diamond League at that.
Right.
Um but once I was over the hurdle of like having to do multiple accounts and like I finally gotten the wallet out and bought a couple of skins because I couldn't stand it either. I'm like, I at least need my Nova announcer. Like, can I please? Like, I can't not have the same announcer.
Yeah.
Um, and yeah, once I was over that hurdle, I started to kind of cultivate this sense throughout the day, or at least after the first ladder game of like, what kind of day is it? How's my brain doing? Right.
Right.
And it's almost now a thing where I treat StarCraft as like this thermometer check on my brain, right? Where I'm like,
Uh-huh.
are we stressed out? Are we not sleeping right? Is my food bad? Is there an emotional problem happening in life somewhere? And I can usually tell, like, you have to work backwards from it, right? Like, oh, wow, I'm like 400 MMR worse today. Why is that, right? But usually I can kind of figure it out. Have you done much of this kind of thinking?
It's something I'm have been thinking about. For example, I know my attitude towards maybe specific matchups is a little
Mm,
bit perma tilted right now.
hmm.
So something I'm doing is to try and put less pressure on myself to figure it all out on my own. Is I'm getting some coaching. I've contacted Future.
Hmm.
Even though it's very
Oh, my
expensive, I feel
boy, Future.
like for my mental health, I feel like it will be really good to just get from a pro and say this is exactly what you need to be doing and what you're currently not doing. And
Hmm.
instead of me just wandering aimlessly trying to figure out what my problem is, um, I feel better about that now. So that's kind of the thermometer issues I have with StarCraft is just like feeling like I have to do it all on my own. And that's another point I wanted to bring up at some point was
Yeah.
the idea of coaching and how important that is to get
Hmm.
some sort of mentor.
Dude, yeah, let's talk about that more. So, do you have some thoughts where you just should I just let you go? I have things I can ask you, but I can let her rip, man.
I could share with how this idea started for me. So I first got coaching when I met Ryu Goes Rar.
Hmm.
And how I met him was I found him through his YouTube content. I posted in the comments of his video, like the video had just come out, I think. I was like, hey, this is exactly the build I've been looking for. I think this is really cool. Do you offer coaching?
Mm.
And he said, yeah, I do. Here, join this Discord server. And I asked, like, how much is coaching going to cost? And he said, nothing. So that's it. He was just going to help me.
Yeah.
And that's another thing is there are players or people or communities that you can join
Hmm.
where you can get free mentoring. It doesn't have to cost anything
Hmm.
initially. I've tried to base some of my content on that idea, but there's stuff like what is it, Diamond? What's the Discord server called?
Top tier practice.
StarCraft Two Platinum Heroes
Oh, okay, yeah.
offers tons of that stuff.
Hmm.
ATT, ATP,
Hmm.
ATZ servers, they'll all do that kind of thing for you. You just got to find the right place.
Hmm.
Um, but also can and I feel like how do you know when you need coaching is just ask yourself, am I stuck? And
Mm.
if you are stuck in your StarCraft progression, you need some outside help because you're not able to figure it out.
Hmm. Yeah. Yeah. Interesting. What do you think about sort of the idea that the right sort of coach student pairing can be important? Like, do you buy into that theory, or do you think that that's kind of like a myth?
I do buy into that. Um, like I have received like some coaching from people and I just didn't agree with it, and so I
Mm.
just moved on.
Hmm.
You have to find someone who fits your mentality and the way you want to play the game.
Yeah.
If you want to be a cannon rusher, you should find someone who's actual good at that and is gonna
Yeah.
show you that.
Right.
Um, they need to be open to how you wanna play the game and what your goals are, and especially if you're paying them, they need to be respectful
Mm.
of what you're wanting out of it.
Hmm. Hmm. Yeah, totally makes sense. So then was this kind of at the forefront of your mind when you said, future, he's my guy. I'm gonna go to him?
It was mostly I'll just share exactly why I'm going to him.
Okay.
I do really well in TVT. I do really well in TVZ. TVP for the last year and a half, my win
Mhm.
rate is below 40%.
Okay. Yeah.
And I'm just so stuck with it. And someone who I know is really good at TVP and really understands it as future. So
Mm.
I've gone to him specifically for that. And
Yeah. Yeah.
I
Yeah.
I did like he offers packages in coaching and it's like 5 sessions for $100 if you do that, like
Wow.
kind of bundle instead of just one
Yeah.
session at a time.
Hmm.
And I'm not intending to get um more pay for more than just this initial bundle because I
Hmm.
think like 5 sessions will be enough for me to get an idea of where I need to go next.
Yep.
And then if I ever need more help, I can go back to him.
Sure.
But like he mentions in his coaching, like, hey, like because we have these 5 sessions, we can cover all these matchups. And I
Yeah.
specifically told him when I asked, I just want help on TVP.
Hmm.
Um, and so it'll be nice to have like 5 sessions all on that matchup.
Yeah. Yeah. Very cool. I love, hearing that he's thinking about his content that way. Like, I remember, I this is me patting myself on the back a little bit for being right, but I remember in the super early days when he would like occasionally stream, right? And
Hmm.
it was almost this like hipster kind of thing, right? Where uh it'd almost be like somebody who's really into like watching me now, where it's like, okay, the person's like putting out something that's like kind of good, but nobody really knows. It's like a secret, you know?
Right.
Um, and I remember saying to him, like, and he's like, I don't know, 15, 16 at this point. I'm like, dude, literally, if you just turn the stream on and do jack shit other than that, like your gameplay is good enough and there's enough hype surrounding you right now, you will get partnered and you will start making money. Will you please just do this? Like, future, please believe me. And I think there must have been like a lot of us who were saying that to him at the time. But it just he's the one where when I hear he's doing well and like he's thinking, business wise, like along those lines, like, oh, I'll offer a coaching package or whatever. I'm like, yes, Yes, he's like, I knew he could do it, and he's succeeding, and I just love it, and it makes me so happy. Like, I also have a little bit of a personal history where I followed Future from team to team to team, like
Mhm.
kind of attached as a content creator type of thing. So yeah, love to hear that he's doing good, and I'm sure that you guys are gonna do awesome. Have you started the sessions with him yet, or no?
No, I start tomorrow.
Oh man, are they
If
gonna
all
be
goes to
streamed?
plan, it starts tomorrow. I asked him if I could record it and post it to YouTube because I
Mhm.
thought that would be like so big for other people to get information from.
Yeah.
But he said that he preferred that I didn't do that.
Okay.
So I
Sure.
will just instead share, like I'll record that information and
Uh
just
huh.
pass it on that
Yeah,
way.
so sort of filter it through your own process and say, here's what I'm learning, here's what I'm working
Yeah.
on. Yeah, that makes sense. And I could totally see like it's a little bit of a different mentality for the coach if they have to feel like they're on, right? Because like Future's a
Yes.
certain way when he's on versus if he's just sitting on the couch, chit chatting with you or in a Discord call or
Hmm.
whatever. Like, um, it's just a different. There's a little more pressure, right? Like it kind of affects everybody differently. That makes sense. Very cool. Yeah, man, I'm looking forward to kind of what you learn there. I have to imagine like with what you're saying about you very concretely know like this matchup is my problem. If I can increase my win rate here even a little bit, my MMR is going to skyrocket because I'm not going to be donating points to anybody who happens to exist as a Protoss,
Yeah.
like roughly my rank. Oh man. Yeah, that's super super cool.
And it
Uh
just is so important with this game. I can't stress enough that when you are stuck, just go get some help. Like,
mhm mhm.
don't just say, "Oh, this matchup is just bad and I can't win it." Like,
Yep.
there's a way to win everything, even if it's through a cheese. Maybe Future tells me I just need a tank push
Mhm.
every TVP by 5 minutes, and that's the solution. I don't know what. It's probably going to be macro, but
Mhm.
I guess like you can always get help. You can always fix things in StarCraft. Don't ever feel like you're never going to improve because you can improve. You just need to see it through different eyes
Mhm.
as to what you're doing wrong.
Yeah, yeah,
And this
I
is something
totally.
I've experienced through coaching people
Mhm.
is they'll come to me, they'll be like plat or gold, and they're like, "Yeah, I'm really good at macro, but I can't win this matchup."
Uh-huh.
And I go and I watch the replay, and they're cutting SCVs everywhere. Like they're
Mm.
not producing SCVs. They have half the amount that they could have at the exact same time when I play that matchup. And I
Mhm.
explain that to them, and they're like, I have them watch the replay, and I show them like, you cut here, and they're like, wow, I didn't realize I was doing that.
Mhm.
And so there's something that we do is that we just don't see our weaknesses as easy. I think.
Yeah, for sure. And I think it can be race specific too in that way where maybe it's like the Adepts or maybe it's the Reaper that when it shows up near your base, starts poking at stuff, your brain
Hmm.
is just like spiraling because
Yeah.
you have some memory in your lizard brain of a time when you lost 8 workers to that Reaper, right? And like,
Yeah.
and all of a sudden producing more of them is just totally out the window, right? Like for a long time, I was that. And then my new thing, I love that you talked about sort of, maybe I need to change my build order against this race kind of thing. For the longest time, when you, Terrence, do that thing where you say, I'm going to build this extra supply depot a little bit early so you get to know nothing about what's happening in this game, Mr. Protoss, I would just spiral, dude, because I'm like, it could be literally anything. The
I
buildings could
love
be,
doing those builds.
oh, I
If
hate it.
I play tournaments, I will do those builds, and I'll share it because there's not too many people here that I think I would compete against because I
Uh
don't do
huh.
tournaments often,
Yeah.
but I have like they're all wall off builds, so
Uh
it's
huh.
for a best of three.
Yep.
All wall off, but it's double gas behind it, so you get a fast factory.
Mm
You
hmm.
get your command center a little bit later, but it's on the high ground, so Protoss doesn't know your CC timing,
Mm hmm.
and you get a fast mine drop. It's much faster than if you played Reaper Fast Expand,
Mm hmm.
and then you just macro off of it into a light tank push that's meant to just deny a 30 and you go home and you get your 3-1-1. But the real power of it is Protoss is freaking out because they
Yep.
don't know what's happening.
Mm hmm.
And so game one, they're scared and so they probably mess up. But then say you beat them and they go, okay, that wasn't so bad. I don't need to fear the wall off so much.
Yeah.
Game two, you don't take gas and you threw your axe all in.
Right.
You proxy two of them on the map and you just have the one in the walls. And
Yeah.
then they're like, they die at the 3 minute mark and they're
Uh
like,
huh.
well, crap. And then game two or game three, I have is like an all in early wall off build. So
Mm
like
hmm.
it's kind of funny. Now that you're talking about builds, you're getting me
Yeah. Yeah.
going on build
Yeah.
orders. I could go all day on
Well,
them.
I'm glad. I wanted to get into this because I, you know, we all have our kind of preconceived notions as we were talking before about, what are my sort of X factors, what's special about me. And you also start to develop a little bit of a map of other content creators, right? Of like,
Right.
that guy's really good at that. I can't do that. Or that guy's really good at that. I aspire to that. I'm not as good as him, but maybe I can cultivate that in myself. Different things like this. And I'm so glad we got to just hear you go off about builds. Because this, for me, when I, always have thought of you, I'm like, dude, for whatever reason, Drift has this magic part of his brain that is just like, I can just understand this, and it's not hard for me. What's wrong with you, Aret, that this is hard for you, right? Um,
Well,
so
can I be honest?
yeah,
My
sure, please.
macro overshadows my huge issues with micro.
Mm-hmm.
So I have compensated for a lot of my bad micro by just having really crisp builds and just having
Ah,
more stuff.
uh-huh.
It's a big issue. I know, like Diamond League or below, like
Mm-hmm.
plat players who are way better at micro than I am. Like they'll beat
Really?
Marine Control in like 10 minutes. I've never beaten Marine Control. I've spent like an hour and a half and get stuck on it. Um, so it is a strength of mine, and I think it's good that we recognize our strengths, but also knowing that like probably something that is holding me back is my micro.
Mm.
And I
So,
play the race of like micro intensity, so I
yeah,
gotta
true.
fix that.
Yeah, okay. I would love to get your thoughts here because I very much kind of mirrored this, I suppose. I, started out kind of my StarCraft journey being like, yes, the thing that every YouTube guide says is I should just make workers and not get supply blocked, and I need to be an honorable macro Protoss and blah blah blah.
Right.
And that worked out pretty great for a while until doing that thing that new players do when they're told to macro and just staring at my base and being like, okay, cool. What building do I need to make? Okay, how many minerals do I have? All right, I'm gonna supply block.
Right.
Okay, make the workers right, and then lo and behold, somebody takes 8 bases and has a million capital ships and whatever, and you just melt, right? Because you didn't punish them,
Right.
you weren't on the map, you had no awareness. And then I kind of went the other way. I'm like, all right, well, if I hit a really early timing, the timing is the scout, right? Like I've got stuff in your base, and maybe you just die. And that kind of like went the other way and made my micro kind of decent, right? Especially as I was
Right.
like drilling with printf as well. You do the cannon stuff, like that's all micro, right? You're picking stuff in and out of prisms and doing whatever, microwave stalkers back, all these different things. So I'm almost like I did the teeter totter kind of thing. And
Mhm.
I'm really curious to hear how you think about this because I know you're very improvement minded. And it sounds like, you brought the macro thing way higher than I've ever been, right? Getting to masters. But you are still kind of thinking about, okay, I do want to go back and refine this other area of my play. Like, are there tricks I'm missing there in terms of how to approach this sort of like how to round yourself out as a player?
It's so hard because this is an issue that I go back and forth with all the time
Mm,
because there's a part of me that says Drift just wants to play the way Drift wants to play. And then there's another part of me that says this is how pros are playing.
mm-hmm.
The way that Drift wants to play is he just wants to play mech all the time because why he's really good at macro and he can make a really powerful army that is very positional and rewarding with positioning, and but it's not flimsy. It doesn't just die to every form of splash damage. I don't
Mm-hmm.
have to be super stressed while playing it.
Yeah.
But then another part of me realizes literally no pro player is playing mech right now.
Mm-hmm.
And so I go back and forth. What's the best way? And I don't have an answer to this.
Mm-hmm.
I'll show what I'm doing right now, but
Sure.
um, you could either choose to say I'm going to play the game how I want to, or I'm going to play for improvement and hope that I find some sort of rewarding aspect from that as I go along
Yeah.
and learn that it's not so bad.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the route I'm taking right now. Is um, I'm just playing bio, and I could play both, but I find that it's hard if you're constantly switching between bio and mech to get like some sort of
Mm.
consistency. So maybe I just do it in TVT, but anyways, mostly bio right now, and I have come to enjoy it more, and I think I will really, really enjoy it when I figure out TVP more.
Yeah. Yeah, that makes sense. I definitely have a little bit of this where I just don't like Stargate units. I don't really want to
Right.
use them. It's, I mean,
Hmm.
everybody kind of knows this about me and I get teased for it. Um, and I'm really torn because I can totally see it the way that you're talking about, where you might try it and be like, okay, having a bunch of Phoenixes isn't so bad. And actually, I can get better at this and like
Hmm.
being really active with this unit out on the map. Like, I really respect the people who can like fly around with a bunch of mutas or phoenixes and like get stuff done and also be macroing. Like, I don't know how Roddy does it. I don't know how Lemon Rice does it. Um, it's just really my brain doesn't get it. And I could see how maybe starting to have some success, even if it's like, okay, I'm on an accounting gold league and I'm flying around with phoenixes, like maybe that's what it would take, right? Um, but yeah, I could totally see that, but I also really for me, I fall down more on the side of the other thing that you said, where it's like, I just like what I like, and I don't want somebody to get to tell me how I have to play the game. And I will want a ground army with robo units or gateway units or whatever. Like,
Right.
that's just what's fun for me. So I'm glad to hear that somebody else is torn. And I'm really eager to see where this experiment takes you, like playing some bio.
Well,
Though,
I think my situation is I it's probably much more big of a deal for me
mm,
than it needs to be. But like I know you really enjoy stuff like cannon rushes, but you've talked about
mm,
like I could never be a tournament player with that.
mm,
Like I think to a lesser extent that happens with mech, but it's probably at like a much higher level than I'll ever be, like really
mm,
high GM. So I probably shouldn't even worry about it anyways. But I know
mm-hmm,
that there is a skill cap with it eventually.
yeah,
And that's what kind of bothers me, I
mm-hmm,
think. But it just really you just have to take an honest look and just think about what matters most to me, what will matter most to me when I finish playing the game. And if you're a
mm,
content creator, what does my decisions do to affect my content? And because I've stuck so much with the educational side, I figured I need to be really educated about the race I play and not play in a way that most people are not. And that's kind of
whoa.
more of my focus of why I went to be more bio focused these
Dude,
days.
you kind of got me with that one. Because yeah, I've always sort of been, here's the journey, here's the progression, right? Of like,
Hmm.
here's how you can improve yourself, here's how you can make ladder not scary. It's like you hit on the one thing where it's like, what do you care about more than getting to play with robo units, right?
Right.
And yeah, it's the content. Damn. There's always a moment in every interview where somebody says something, I'm like, ah, crap, you're right. And I'm gonna have to change how I think about things now. And I think this is that for me. Oh, dang. Okay. Well, let me reel us back a little because I took you pretty deep on the learning and the build order stuff, and it's great because I feel you have a lot to contribute there. But I want to keep sort of filling in sort of who you are as a person, right? I'm curious. Do you have any kind of interests or hobbies outside of StarCraft, and then pursuing kind of your degree in music?
Yeah, because I do streaming and StarCraft, that pretty much consumes all of the free time that I have after work. But I'm
Yeah.
very, very passionate about music, and I find a lot of parallels between music and StarCraft.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so many actually. Like
Yeah.
I think maybe the reason I am good at building because I'm good at reading music and following a very long,
Ah.
organized structure of what you need to do.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe that's why I memorize bulleters better than most. I don't know.
Yeah.
Um, but also the aspect of like StarCraft can be an instrument and you just need to practice it. It's
Mm-hmm.
not a waste of time. It's not just a video game. It is a skill you're building that makes you happy and possibly other people happy if you're a
Mm-hmm.
content creator.
Yeah. Ooh, I
Yeah.
I really like that. So, okay, we talked about, kind of you've had this lifelong interest in music. How did that actually start? Like, have you been doing this like your whole life since you were very young, or where did you kind of begin?
My dad is a music teacher as well.
Oh, wow, okay.
So, very musical family growing up. And I had a lot of interests. I've kind of done a lot of instruments. I started off on a funny instrument called the bassoon and band. Didn't like it as much. Kind of got more into choir and bass guitar. So
Hmm.
I still was in band, but I played bass guitar in marching band, and I
Hmm.
played double bass in concert band and in jazz bands and stuff
Hmm.
like that. But I also sang, and so I've kind of experimented with a lot of things, and eventually settled on singing as the thing that I enjoy the most and feel like
Mm-hmm.
I have the most opportunity to contribute to. But that was also something that I felt like I was kind of the worst at coming into college. So it
Uh-huh.
was a big journey for me to figure out how to sing. And that's
Mm,
why I enjoy ideas of things that push us out of our comfort zone to learn,
mm,
because I now have a really like I used to think my voice was horrible for solo singing.
mm-hmm.
Um and especially because I'm a deeper male, and so like that doesn't work for pop music very well. But I got into
Mm.
college and it's a lot of classical repertoire, and it
Ah,
fit my voice better. And I learned a lot about how to improve my voice. And now I'm very comfortable singing a solo in front of an audience. I
yeah.
think it's very enjoyable. Whereas before in high school, I said I would never enjoy that.
Hmm. From
So
a
I've really
standpoint,
learned that pushing ourselves out of our comfort zone is can be a good thing, and make us realize things that we didn't think we would enjoy.
yeah, totally, man. That's way cool. So with the sort of not enjoying it in a high school setting, Was that because you had this thing in your head of like, my voice, like the actual, sort of physics of my voice doesn't match the way the content should be, or was it like more of a stage fright thing, or kind of a mix of both? How was that for you?
It was just mostly like, man, I don't like I'd record myself. I didn't feel like I sound good. Some other people would tell me like, hey, your tone is really nasally or it is not very resonant. Um, and so that discouraged me from performing. I felt okay in a choir because I blended in more
Mm.
and could contribute at what I was good at, which was
Hmm.
being very accurate with pitches and singing
Ah.
very in tune
Hmm.
and singing the right notes. But as a solo singer, I was very uncomfortable with that idea.
Hmm. Interesting. Yeah, it's funny. I'm just thinking like about how much you clearly do have control of your voice as an instrument, right? Like we've been talking for an hour now, and I I've been fiddling with the dial in obs because depending on how excited I am and how much I'm yelling and straining my voice, just grating against it, right? Like my levels are all over the place, and yours have just been rock solid, like exactly the same and perfect all throughout. And I'm sure when we're done talking, your voice is going to feel fine, and I'm going to be hoarse for the rest of the day because I have just no control over myself as a person, but also my voice. Um, yeah,
Yeah,
and
it's hard. Vocal health is a really kind of confusing thing.
mm,
I used to have pain in my throat all the time
uh
in high
huh,
school and early college when I'd go talk to people for too long. I would get
yeah,
strained very
uh-huh,
easily. And now I don't know, through learning correct singing techniques, it's kind of fixed my speaking issues that I have. And I hardly, even when I've taught all day at school,
mm-hmm,
it comes home a little tired, but I'm not hoarse. I'm not like, ow, that's painful.
right, yeah, yeah. I
Random
used to.
facts that StarCraft people didn't want to know about me, but now they know. So,
No, dude. See, this is the thing, and everybody always feels like they need to apologize or whatever for like touching on the stuff that isn't about StarCraft, but like this does map onto it. Like, the idea that you would talk all day at work, right, and then come home and turn on a stream and talk, like it is highly relevant that you are able to do that. Like, if I had to do a job where I had to talk a lot instead of just staring and clacking away at a keyboard, being in isolation, I literally wouldn't be able to do it. I was streaming, I don't know, 3 nights a week, 4 nights a week at the, the absolute most I've ever done it. And I kept for a while thinking I was getting sick. Kept thinking I was like, oh, I have a sore throat. Oh no. I'm going to, and I checked my temperature, no fever. And I realized eventually, oh, I'm straining my voice like every day.
right.
And I'm not getting sick. I just streamed for 3 hours and was screaming into the microphone. Um, Another reason why it maps too is like, so you're using a Blue Yeti, right? It looks like.
Yes.
I remember using a Blue Yeti, and mine never sounded as good as yours sounds, right?
Oh,
Uh I'm wondering, and I'm curious, just as like a streamer tech angle, is it because you have better vocal control and like, a nice voice and all these things? Or is it because you know how it's supposed to sound? And so you've got that thing really freaking dialed in a way that like you're getting the most out of the hardware kind of thing.
I'm very particular with how I have it set up, and
Mm-hmm.
it's taken me a long time to fiddle with the Blue Yeti, and I
Mm-hmm.
eventually learned that I needed to turn the gain all the way off,
Mm.
and then just mess around with it through OBS, and
Mm-hmm.
then it sounded better.
Yeah.
But I also like when I talk, I access places that I access when I sing. When you sing and you want to sound resonant, what makes an opera singer or a classical singer sound so big and
Mm-hmm.
full is because they send their sound to cavities um, in the back of the throat and kind of over the nasal passages that amplify that sound and carry it. So
Mm.
I'm doing, even when I talk, I'm doing less work and I'm using less muscles because I'm just used to imagining my sound going to those places and then it
Uh-huh.
amplifies and carries.
Man, that's so interesting. You see, and this is why I say like, yeah, it's not that like actually, I'll double down harder. I'm gonna make some people mad. Are you ready?
Okay.
If the StarCraft people don't care and they're like, no, Drift, talk about build orders again, they're wrong. And they should appreciate this about you because again, it's like, what is like some interesting, unique stuff about you that they're not gonna get on my stream? Well, they're definitely not getting vocal control out of my stream, right? Like I have so much compression on this thing, and it peaked a bunch of times in this interview already. I just looked over it, it's redlining. Like um yeah, I mean, I probably what I'm actually I think talking myself into is I need to get some tips from you at some point when we're not doing an interview. But
Yeah, I'd be happy to help.
yeah, I could use it, man, for sure. Well, what other? I mean, I've got a bunch of like sort of rapid fire things I can ask you, but what other stuff should we talk about? I mean, there's so many interesting topics here. What have I not covered with you yet?
Collaboration.
Yeah, you said you've got some interesting stuff going recently.
Yeah. So um, Terran Craft, the
Uh
guy
huh.
who has his name is Maxi. He has a website that is called Terran Craft, and he just posts a bunch of Terran information with it. Um, I guess somehow he came in contact with my content and decided that he wanted to work with me to create build orders for his website, but that he would also credit me and use my videos
Mm-hmm.
in his articles. And so
Yeah.
that's been a cool collaboration. Something I wish I understood better though was how I can do it while I'm live streaming or while I'm on Twitch in
Mm.
particular,
Mm-hmm.
because I feel like that is something I'm not doing that other people are. And I
Okay.
feel like that could benefit and merge communities and so on and so forth.
Interesting. Yeah. Hmm. Yeah. I wish I had like a, oh, we'll just do this kind of an answer for you,
Yeah.
but like for me,
Uh
that's
huh.
also like, yeah, that's hard. Like I have one build that I understand well enough where when someone's like, "Hey, can you just show me that real quick?" I can literally like just queue into a Zerg and be like, "All right, maybe I don't hit this quite as crisp, but it's going to take like at most 10 seconds off of it and I can literally tell you everything that I'm doing right now."
Right.
And there's like a couple of YouTube VODs that I've cut where it's like at various points in time, it's like Diamond 3 are at doing it, Diamond 2 are at doing it. Like I might even have one of like the brief Diamond 1 era that existed a year ago for like a week. He might have done one. Uh, I really hope one day to be that guy again. But yeah, I totally feel you that it's like it's not an easy thing unless you really have like an incredibly strong grasp. It is that thing that you're saying where you're in the empty custom and you get it like kind of close, say a couple of grumbly words at your monitor and like close the game out and try it again, right? It's like, I gotta get those 3 seconds, right? Um, I love that you're doing work with Max though. I got to meet him and interact for an Archives Book Club episode
Oh,
a while
cool.
back. Yeah, so when I heard you guys were teaming up, I'm like, oh, it's like it's nerd fan fiction, right? Like these are the two guys that like are doing all this, cool, like here's how stuff works. Like when I need to understand weird Terran stuff, right? Um, like I always know when you thermal put out a video, right? I
Right.
always know because every asshole in Diamond 2, all of a sudden, right, it's the same thing, and I'm just
Right.
losing to it over and over and over, right? Um, but then like I can't for whatever reason, and maybe it's just because I'm not a Terran at that level, I can't just flip to the Euthermal video and like really get it. Like really understand the trends. And I guess I'm not the target audience, so that kind of makes sense, right? But when, Max writes an article or you're in my chat just being like, "Oh dude, it's just this," or whatever, like um here's what that player's giving up to get that thing that's killing you, right? Like you've explained
Right.
a lot of these kinds of things to me. Or like the one I always talk about, and people are bored of hearing me, sing the praises of this Max U article. The Terran Craft on the eBay block, where he's like, here is specifically why they're doing this to you, Protosses, and here's why it's advantageous, and here's why it has minimal impact to them relative to the impact to you, and blah 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 blah. I'm like, oh, I understand, right? So to hear that you guys are doing stuff together, I'm hyped. Have articles already come out? I haven't been over there in a minute.
We have one.
Okay.
I'm working on the TVT one right
Mm-hmm.
now. We're doing one for every matchup that
Yeah.
covered replays and build orders from IEM.
Mm-hmm. Dude.
So I still have two more to do. I've been really slow at doing them. I've just been so busy with student teaching,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
and I need to get on that more because I'm
Yeah.
trying to make like 3 YouTube videos a month, but it's
Mm-hmm.
really hard when you have a full time job and you're doing Twitch stuff, and yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
how it goes.
I just have a guilt pile in my creator dashboard in Twitch where it's like,
Uh huh.
oh man, I have these highlights. Like sometimes I'll sit on like 10 highlights that I cut and it's like literally, dude, all you have to do is export them to YouTube. Like, I have an emote I've had Photoshop for a year. I just refuse to upload for whatever reason. Like it's rough.
That's hilarious.
I always like to ask this, it's sort of a pet question about time, right? Like how do you manage everything you just said and then, relationship, friendship, family, like anything else that's important to you to like maintain in your life? Like do you just carve out little pockets of time for each and kind of feel bad that you can't spend more? Like how are you kind of rationalizing around that?
Well, I think we all to some degree struggle with like that kind of balance in life. I'm lucky. I have a very supportive wife who
Mm,
is
mhm.
encouraging of me doing
Yeah,
streaming and playing StarCraft. She thinks that great. That is great. She doesn't like it if I overplay or play for many, many hours. So I just
yeah.
have to make sure that I respect that desire of her, that I still get to have time with her each day, that I help her with the baby and
Mm.
all those things.
I didn't realize that you two had a kiddo.
Yeah, baby Drift.
Oh,
Our little
man.
Terran.
Very cute. How old?
She is pretty much 6 months.
Oh,
I
wow.
think she's six
Still,
months.
she's little.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, man.
She's
Congrats.
fun though.
And I'm sorry if you told me that in chat and I forgot. Sometimes I guess when you're live, like facts can go in and you're like, I
Mm-hmm.
care about this and it's important. And then there's somebody drop your main, you know?
Right, right. No, I don't think I mentioned it in your chat before, so
Oh
we're good
man,
there.
that's way cool. Yeah, that's like a super important thing for us to talk about in an interview. You got a wife and kid. My goodness. And do
So
you
it has definitely been a struggle to figure out. I'm just lucky that I have someone who's willing to cooperate with it all.
mm-hmm. Yeah, I was gonna kind of ask about that. So, I mean, obviously, it sounds like she's very understanding. You've got a nice support system in terms of like family and stuff helping you while you're like literally for your career have to do this thing where you're working for free, which is like brutal, right?
Yeah.
So it's amazing that you have kind of a support system around you that you're able to kind of still be Superman on the internet kind of thing.
Mhm.
Do you anticipate that kind of, changing for you, like particularly like as your daughter, grows up, or, how are you kind of thinking about managing things moving forward?
No, I haven't thought about it too much. Something I wonder about is when I'm a full time music teacher, how will that affect
Yeah.
streaming? Because that is an extremely demanding job. You're often there many hours after the other teachers have gone home. You're usually
Mm,
there if you're doing like early morning sectionals or something. You're there before every other teacher. You have
yeah.
concerts, just like a whole bunch of stuff going on. So I don't know in the future how much streaming I'll be able to do, and
Right.
that's I'm just trying to enjoy it, I guess, for as long as I can. And
Sure.
she understands though that I would like to make eventually a career out of streaming.
Hmm.
Um, like in a way that I feel like it could be real is if I get enough YouTube following,
Mm,
then when Frost Giants game comes out, I'll be able to make content for that game and
yeah.
make build order guides and get a lot of momentum through that. That's just an idea I have though.
Sure.
So
Yeah.
that way there's eventually some sort of payback. Maybe I go big with it. I don't know. We'll see.
Yeah, I feel like that's a great approach, right? In a way, it's like right now you care about StarCraft, you're hyped about StarCraft, and you're making amazing content, you're enjoying doing it, and you're improving a skill set, right? And that skill set, that's a weapon that you get to take with you that you've honed, right?
Hmm.
And now a new game comes out, bunch of eyes on it. Well, we need build order content. We need a guy who has a superhumanly strong brain at picking up a build order, right? Thinking about its nuances and advantages and disadvantages and making it accessible to the Gold League hero, right?
Hmm.
That is a very, very marketable skill. And I hope that we get to see the day where you're just killing it on YouTube.
I
And
really would love that. Like, there's a guy called Jane. I don't know if you were ever into Overwatch, but Jane is like super
oh,
big
okay. Yeah, I know the guy. Uh-huh.
in the Overwatch community
Yeah.
for the way he analyzes videos of like VODs of people playing in lower levels.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just this genius stuff. And it's like poetry falls out of his mouth as he's explaining what's
Mm.
happening in the game. And I kind of hope that for me is my understanding with builds and guides is like
Yeah.
something that a lot of people come to enjoy eventually.
Mm-hmm.
Like that would make me so happy if like it really blew up on YouTube. So,
Yeah,
and I know
yeah.
that at this point it can't happen with StarCraft. There's not enough community for it.
Mm. Mm-hmm.
But I hope that the community I do gain gives me enough momentum coming into the next game.
Yeah, that totally makes sense. So for you, is it a matter of following your passion in terms of what you enjoy or following, who you can make the most content to make happy? Like what's the big motivator for you?
The big motivator for me is just doing what makes me happy. Like I don't play a ton of other games on stream. I
Mm-hmm.
mostly do StarCraft. I don't play a ton of other games outside of StarCraft
Mm.
either. I just know that like the Frost Giant game, I mean, it's made by the guys who did StarCraft, so they're probably going to do something
Yeah.
that I'm going to enjoy. I would
Mm-hmm.
imagine. We'll
That's kind of
see.
where I'm at too. Like I look at the staff, I'm like, oh yeah, I've seen some stuff, that person said on Twitter. Seen some stuff that person said on Twitter. Ah, yeah, I read an interview you did. Oh, you're all the people that made this game, all of the ways, like you're the reason I like this game, kind of thing, right?
Hmm.
And so yeah, it's almost like I mean, I'm not gonna blindly be a fanboy, be like, "Oh no, this thing has no flaws and whatever." But like, I also can imagine I'm probably gonna like it. You know, like this.
Well, it's funny because a lot of them are Protoss players. So I
we,
imagine they'll make a race that you would enjoy. We'll see.
yeah, I mean, we said we wouldn't go too deep into ballots. So I might want to back away from that one. Oh man, that's funny. Um, do you have any thoughts around the recent sort of announcements from Sunspear and their Kickstarter? Are you looking at that game as well, or
Are
are
you
you
talking about
mostly?
Immortal?
Yeah. Hmm.
I'm very excited by it
Hmm.
about it. I don't know what it's gonna be like though. I'm excited
Hmm.
by the racial like that there's so many different races. I think
Mm,
that's really cool.
yeah.
I just have to wait and see it. I know it's by people who aren't not as familiar with making an RTS is the thing that
Mm,
that I haven't like fully gone on board with it. I just
yeah.
need to
Hmm.
see the game first and decide on my own how much I
Totally.
enjoy it.
Yeah. Yeah. That definitely makes sense. I think probably someone like yourself who has demonstrated over some years that like you're a content person and you care a lot about this stuff. I gotta imagine if you came knocking over at their Discord and just hung out for a little bit, you might be able to get yourself a little sneak peek. That would not surprise me. So if that's a
Mm,
thing that is of interest to you, I would suggest you maybe sidle over there and go hang out for a little bit.
it's a good suggestion. I should try that.
Um, yeah. So I don't know. I feel like we're at a really interesting point in time. This is one of the things I've been kind of trying to talk to everybody about as I've been interviewing, and you kind of sort of already said it, right? You're not gonna, if these other games come out and you're like, I don't like it as much as StarCraft, you're kind of staying put. Um, but do you sort of feel that excitement that's kind of going around of like, oh, maybe not for a couple years, we're gonna have some games coming soon. Like, is that kind of bubbling up inside of you? Do you feel like you'll miss StarCraft if you hop to something else?
Yeah, that's a really good question. I I really like the science fiction setting that StarCraft has.
Yeah.
Militaristic, uh, future space stuff.
Mm-hmm.
If Frost Giants game is like a knight and dragon setting or like some sort of old fantasy,
Yeah.
like Warcraft, I don't know if I'm gonna like it as much
Okay.
because I just aesthetically that appeals less to me. I like
Yeah.
lasers and ships and
Yeah.
I like robots. That's why I like Mac. I love robots. So
Mm-hmm.
like I
Mm-hmm.
want that kind of
Yeah.
thing. We'll see.
Very cool. Very cool. Awesome, dude. Well, I feel like I've kind of talked your ear off, and I really appreciate you hanging in there with like my brain going 1,000 directions. Um, are there any more of those topics that we wanted to hit or that you wanted to hit that I did not give you an opportunity to yet?
Um, one thing, and
Mm-hmm.
that is just to say, where your value comes in as a player, like
Mm,
where your worth as a player comes in. It's not measured by. This is something I've had to learn over a long period of time, and I
mm-hmm.
know maybe other people struggle with it. Depending, they see that they lose a lot of games and they feel bad about themselves, or
Mm,
they feel like because they're X rank they feel bad. I just think that your worth as a player just comes down to your consistency to fail and then get back up again and keep
mm.
trying.
Yeah. Oh, powerful stuff coming out of Drift. Ladies and gentlemen, a scholar of build orders, content creator, husband, father, teacher, musician. He's got it all. Man, this was a really fun conversation. I feel like oh, you have given me some challenging things to think about. I need to go do some soul searching around whether I'm gonna just, stay on this ground pounder army timing thing or, turn over a new leaf as a result of talking to you. But
I'm excited to hear that. That's fun. I didn't realize
oh,
I would have that kind of impact.
I'm
So
not. I'm scared. It's that thing you were saying, dude. It's the exact thing you were saying, where it's like going out of that comfort zone, right? And how there can be growth there and different things like that. Like, and it's always that feeling of like, oh, I don't want to do this. It feels uncomfortable, right? But that is where the learning happens, right? It's where you access kind of some of that newer stuff.
I think that something that we could tack onto that. I know we're running out
Yeah.
of time, but is that as you do that, just pay attention to if over time do I enjoy it more than I thought I would at first.
Mm.
And if you don't, then maybe reevaluate. Like maybe this really what I gave it a really good shot. Maybe it was not the path for me.
Mm-hmm.
Like I'm considering that with Terran a little bit. Like I know that I'm better at macro. I like bigger, tankier armies. Maybe if I continue to struggle with bio, who knows? Maybe one day I switch and play Protoss. Maybe that's a
Yeah.
better race for me as a person. I don't
Hmm.
know.
Hmm.
It's just going to be something that you just evaluate over time, and don't feel bad if you change your mind.
Yeah, that's that meandering path thing. That's back to, the book Range and Pig and all that kind of stuff, right? Like that it is okay to have that life experience and be like, okay, it didn't take me where I wanted to go, but it did teach me where I wanted to go. And that is
Yeah.
also valuable. Oh man.
Oh yeah.
Very, very cool. Okay, so you're gonna stream now, right?
Yes.
And so all the lovely people in chat who have just heard about what an amazing mind you have and the way that you think about this stuff, they get to, they get a little taste. They get a little sample now and they can go hang out with you. So in order to accomplish that, I'm going to hide drift from you, the people, dear viewers. Um, and then I'm gonna do a song and dance for you for a minute while he gets up and running. We're gonna kick you over to his house. Thank you so much, man. Let's get some socials going for you, and just before
Okay.
case we lose anybody, right? So you on Twitter are, I think, DriftSC2.
Drift
Yep.
SC2.
And the same on Twitch as well. So I can do those. And then, what is your? Do you have your YouTube link, Candy?
Yeah. Would you like me to post it in chat or DM it to you?
Yeah, you might as well just post it in chat. Why not?
Okay. This is
So I've got a couple
my
of them
YouTube
here.
channel.
Oh, dude, he's ready. What a guy.
And then you've already got my Twitter and Twitch.
Yes, please go follow him in all of these amazing places. And yeah, thanks everybody for hanging out. Drift, this is your opportunity. If there's anything you want to say to the people, or just say goodbye and wave.
Okay, guys, thank you so much for watching. I really enjoyed this today. Big shout out to Airdet for being willing to do this with me. And just want to say, live a good life, brush your teeth, go home, kiss your mom, and play StarCraft. Okay.
Very, very nice. Appreciate it. Thank you, man. I really appreciate you, feeding me some free content here and coming on, taking a chunk out of your weekend. All right, everybody, I'm gonna hide him from you, and he'll be coming back in just a moment.
Bye, guys.